Hi everyone, in today's lesson we're going to talk about how to multiply and divide polynomials. This should be a little bit of a review for you. If it's not, then don't worry, I'll go slow. So the first thing that we want to do is review how to multiply monomials together. So see here we have a 2x times a 4x. What we're going to do is we're going to multiply the numbers on the outside. So the 2's and the 4's. 2 times 4 gives me 8. Then we're going to multiply the x's together, x times x. Now just to recall, x times x, x's have powers of 1s if they're not already written, and you keep the base. This is the base, the smaller numbers are the exponents. So the result of x to the first times x to the first is actually x squared. You keep the base of x, and you add the 1 and 1 together to get 2. So this answer is 8x to the second power. Okay. Number 2, 3x times 8. Well, since there's no x with the 8, it's still done the same way. You multiply the coefficients. 8 times 3, which is 24. And since there's no x, you just tack it on. It becomes 24x. Number 3 is 2 times 4, which is 8. And x, which is the same thing as x to the first, times x to the third. You keep the x, add the powers. 3 plus 1 is 4. All right, same thing with number 4. Negative 12 times negative 2 is a positive 24. Remember that a negative times a negative is a positive. X to the fourth times x to the fifth. You add the powers, 4 and 5, and you keep the base of x. So it becomes x to the ninth. All right. Now the same thing is going to work with number 5. Even though I have x and y here and x here, I can still multiply them. You simply multiply the 9 and the negative 2, which gives me negative 18. Now I have an x here and I have an x here. They both have powers of 1, so we keep the base, add the powers, and then you just tack on that y, and the answer becomes negative 18x squared y. So what I'd like you to do is finish these next 3 for homework, and we're going to move on to the next problem. All right, now for number 1 in this example, we're multiplying a monomial by a binomial. And the way that you remember this is distribution. You're going to multiply the 3x squared by everything in here and in here. So 3x squared times 9x to the third is 27, because 3 times 9 is 27. X squared times x to the third. You keep the x and add the powers, x to the fifth. Then we have 3x squared times 2x. 3 times 2 is 6. And x squared times x is x to the third. You take the squared and add it to that imaginary 1 power, and that's your final answer. Okay? Number 2 is done the same way, except we're going to double distribute. You take this x term and multiply it by everything in the second term. So watch. X times 2x is 2x squared. Then you do x times 8, which is a positive 8x. Then you multiply the 7x, or 7, to everything in here. So 7 times 2x is positive 14x. And then our last but not least, we have 7 times 8, which is 56. And to simplify this a little bit further, I can see here that these two are like terms. So I can add 8x together and 14x. And when I add those together, I get 22x. And you just bring down my 2x squared and the positive 56. Okay? I'd like to go over number 3. So for number 3, you have to remember that you're squaring something, right? It's 3x minus 1 squared. So what does it mean to square something? You should be saying multiply by itself. So 3x times 1 squared is the same thing as saying 3x minus 1 times 3x minus 1. I want you to write this. Do not distribute the exponent. There is no rule mathematically that says that you can distribute this into here and here. That is not correct. You must write it out twice. So, since we did a problem just like this over here, I would like you to do question number 3 and number 4 for homework. Number 4 might be a little bit tricky, but I think you guys can do it. We'll go over them tomorrow in class. And last but not least, I want you to do verify the following. I would like you to answer the question. Does 2x plus 3y squared equal 4x squared plus 9y squared? And when you see justify your answer, the words justify mean to show math. So I want you to show some math to prove or disprove. Now just remember, I'm not going to be grading this, but I just want to see that you've completed these homework problems. Okay, let's move on to the back. Okay, so let's review dividing polynomials. It kind of works similarly to multiplying, whereas you take the numbers on the outside, so you would do 14 divided by 7 this time, and you get 2. You keep the base of the exponent, so x to the 10th divided by x squared. You keep the base of x and subtract 10 and 2, and you'll get 8. All right, number 2, you have 15 x to the 6th, y to the 8th. There's an imaginary 1 there, 1x to the 4th y. So what is 15 divided by 1? Nothing other than 15. Then you have the x terms. What's x to the 6th divided by x to the 4th? You keep the x, subtract the powers. 6 minus 4 is 2. And last but not least, you take your y terms. Y to the 8th divided by y, which is the same thing as y to the 1st, becomes y to the 7th. And for number 3, notice how there's a 7 in the denominator but nothing in the numerator. You actually can put a 1 in front. So it's technically 1 divided by 7, 1/7. Now you're going to take your a's. You have a to the 4th, but it looks like you have no a to the 4th on the bottom here. So it's just 1/7 a to the 4th. And I have, I can't even see that. I think that's a 3. So I have b to the 3rd divided by b to the 3rd. So what you'll do there is you will keep the base, which is b, and subtract the powers. And you get 0. Now this is something very important. I want you to write this down. Anything to the 0 power equals 1. And remind me tomorrow in class and I will show you why this is true for everything. So what I'm trying to say here is that this b to the 0 power reduces to 1. So your final answer for this is 1/7 a to the 4th, which can also be written as a to the 4 over 7. Okay? Because the a to the 4th, if it's in the middle, it's the same thing as if it goes on the top. Okay, dividing polynomials by monomials is relatively easy. What you're going to do is you're going to divide everything on top by everything on the bottom. Just like this. So what is x squared divided by x? Nothing other than x to the 1st. You subtract the 2 and the 1, and you get x to the 1st. What is 2x divided by x? So let's see, 2x divided by x. They both have powers of 1, so it's just 2x to the 0, and x to the 0 becomes 1. So it's just saying 2 times 1, which is 2. You could also think of it as you cancel out the x's, anything on top with anything on the bottom that's the same. It cancels to 1. So you're left with 2 times 1, which is 2. Same thing for number 5. You're going to divide each term here by the 2x. Sometimes it's nice if you write it out. 12x to the third over 2x minus 6x squared over 2x plus 2x over 2x. So 12 divided by 2 is 6. X to the third divided by x to the first, remember there's a power of 1 here, is x to the second. Bring down the minus. Then we have 6 divided by 2, which is 3. We keep the x and subtract the powers. This power has a 1, so 2 minus 1 is 1. We don't have to write it, but we could just say 3x or 3x to the first. And last but not least, we have 2x divided by 2x. Anything divided by itself is 1, so please don't forget to put a 1 there. Okay, last but not least is number 6 and 7. I'd like you to try these two for homework. And number 8. Notice how number 8 does not have what we call a monomial on the bottom. There's only one term on the bottom out of all of these examples. This one is technically a binomial. So the question is asking, does this trinomial divided by this binomial equal this? So the question is saying to do that, and you have to justify your answer. Remember that says to show math. So I did not teach you how to divide these. I want you to come up with a way that you could prove it without division. And my hint is to use multiplication. Okay? And again, we will go over this all tomorrow. I just want to see what you could do. So try all those problems for homework, and I will see you in class tomorrow. Have a great night.